Hello, everybody. Welcome to LangFest Live. We have some special guests today. It's actually been how long? Maybe a year before since we've done our last live. So I am very excited, but at the same time, a little bit nervous because I don't know. I've got so many things to watch out for. But good thing I've got three fantastic guests today with us. The ladies from Women in Language. Welcome, everybody.
Hello, thank you for having us.
All right, I hear
I get
you.
to.
Great. So I know the mics are working. So LangFest has been off since, well, last year and then this year with, I don't know, COVID. Maybe we couldn't do our event this year, but we are having a collaboration with Polyglot Conference this year. But before that, we're in what, late August. We're getting things started, and what better way to started talking about another event, also a very important event. And we've got Nicolas coming in. Hello, Nicolas.
Bonjour, Nicolas.
You must be on mute, or your voice is very small.
I was on mute.
There you go. You've also forgotten all the functions on Zoom. How are you? Did you just wake up?
Sorry for my lateness. I hope not coming too late. Okay, it's still 5. That's okay.
No. You are the last one on. No pressure. So I was just saying that we're all kind of rusty with these live things, but definitely happy to be getting everything started again. And I was mentioning we're kind of going into like festival season here, since the last one was Polyglot Gathering, and that was a few months back. And normally we would have LangFest, and then we would have Polyglot Conference, and in between we'd have online events like Women in Language. So it's a great way to re-kick off this event season with guests from Women in Language, and definitely we want to start talking about the event. But before that, I want to know who are the organizers of this event, and how they know each other, and all the background between the ladies. So please, one of you start with a little introduction of yourself and how you guys know each other.
I'm happy to kick off. So hello,
There you go.
I'm Lindsay from Lindsay Does Languages, and we've been doing Women in Language now this is our third event since 2018. I had the idea back in 2017. I was walking back from Walmart in Merida in Mexico, and I said to my husband, God, wouldn't it be great, like International Women's Day coming up, wouldn't it be really cool to have like an online event, just loads of female language people talking about language learning? He's like, yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. And then I mentioned it to Kirsten, I mentioned it to Shannon, and we were all as equally as excited as one another. And that's really how things got started. But aside from Women in Language, I do lots of things online. I work with language learners who want to learn how to learn a language and how to get better at that process, and also with teachers who want to start teaching online as well.
Oh, so it was about the Women's International Women's Day. That's obvious.
International Women's Day, March 8th, is actually my birthday.
Oh, there you go.
Perfect.
That was very relevant.
I don't know. It's just
Okay. So who's up next?
I'll be happy to go. So my name's Kirsten, and most of my time in terms of languages, I spend most of my time talking about languages. I mostly talk about languages into this thing and make a podcast called The Fluent Show, which is a weekly language learning podcast where I talk a lot about all things related to language learning. Through the podcast, a secret that people maybe don't know about having a podcast is that if you think somebody's cool, but you don't quite know how to get in touch with them, you can just contact them and say, I've got a podcast and I want to interview you. And it is like the best excuse, which is what I did with Lindsay and how I got to know Lindsay. And wow. Lindsay came on the show and has actually been on the show for nearly 100 episodes now. So wow. She's on once a month as my co-host. Really wonderful. So we've had a long friendship going. And Shannon and I have also worked together for ages, and Shannon and Lindsay have worked together. So when we've just heard how this whole thing kicked off, the idea, and I think something that has made Women in Language work over time is that we had worked together in various smaller ways before. We'd all run webinars together. We'd all kind of run little individual campaigns together, had guest episodes, etc. We trusted each other and we knew each other as professionals in this space and people who are really into languages. And I think we've, Lindsay and Shannon have buddied up before because they've both learned Korean, which I'm going nowhere near. But I've asked them for language advice. They've asked me, so we knew each other as people who are into languages and who also have got the skills to possibly pull this off. And that's kind of where the story went next, I guess. And I can let Shannon finish the story. This is good. This works.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up the torch from this and mention something very important. So we have worked together online for a very long time, but the first time we ever met in person was at LangFest.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Wow, well, what an honor. We've brought people together, on different levels, and here's one important way that we feel that we contribute to the language community, bringing in the folks from Women in Language. There you go.
Yeah, you brought us together. But I'll continue with my introduction, I guess.
Yes.
I'm Shannon, and I have a blog called You're a Linguist. I am actually a professional musician who also does language things, but I'm a saxophone player, and I also am the head coach for the Fluent in 3 Months Challenge, which was formerly the Add One Challenge. I am the co-host of the Language Hacking podcast, along with Benny Lewis. I'm the resident polyglot at Drops, and I also do some pretty cool stuff with Kirsten and Lindsay, like Language League, and of course, Women in Language. And so that's me.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. I do want to take a moment here to acknowledge the folks that are watching us live right now. We do have a few people watching, and some people have been commenting. I see Abu Alagmir. Thank you very much for joining and commenting, and welcome to this live. And I see somebody called Richard Simcott. Not too sure who he is, but hey, hello, Richard.
Hi, Richard.
So, all right, everybody know who Richard Simcott is. He's an organizer for the Polyglot Conference that's happening in about a month and a half. Yeah, and coincidentally, LangFest will be working with Polyglot Conference this year to bring in the fest of LangFest, I guess is how we say it, working on the social activities at Polyglot Conference Global this year. That's taking place from October 16th to October 25th. But enough about that. Let's continue with Women of Language that's coming up right here. We see 17th to the 20th of September. That's in a few weeks. I understand that the tickets have been on sale for a while, and they've been selling like hot potatoes. Is that how you say it? Running off the shelf.
Hot cakes, hot potatoes, whatever's hot.
Kirsten
We've got
always
it.
talks about hot potatoes, so yeah, we can go with hot potatoes.
There you go. So you've touched upon a little bit of how it began, but give me more. Like, what's the mission? More about the history, how who's handling what in this team. It is I don't know, it's got a short history, I think, but impactful. Tell me.
We hope for Women in Language to be impactful, and in fact we're beginning to get stories a little bit like our own. So there's Penny and Beck who got together. So they're both in Australia, they're both in Victoria, and they met at Women in Language in the chat room. So you can meet even in an online event and forge this connection. Both realized that they're in Australia and started a podcast together, a little project called Language Lovers AU, and sort of bringing the language lovers of Australia together, which wasn't an impact that we expected to have. And generally speaking, it's nice. It's still in our third year. It feels like we're adding something fresh, like we're bringing for something fresh. If you are going to organize any kind of event and say, okay, we're going to talk about a topic that we know really, really well, but we are restricting the range of speakers and the range of, you know, people that we would instantly want to put on, it automatically gives you, it kind of just mixes things up. So whether it's women, whether it's, you know, it kind of doesn't really matter, no matter which way you would go about this. If you said, okay, we're only going to do, like if you said we're only going to do this in French, in the French language, you just come with this fresh new point of view and this fresh perspective that I feel we're adding to this landscape that is such an exciting thing to have. And if Women in Language has that impact, I'm just super excited about it. I think this has been our most positive start into the year yet. Definitely. Yeah, I'll pass on to one of the other ladies, talk about the jobs.
I'll jump in. So you had asked kind of like what the motto behind the conference is and the story behind it. And we say that our goal is to champion, celebrate, and amplify female voices in the language learning realm. So that's kind of like our goal with the conference. And of course, in saying that, it sounds like, oh, this is a women's only event. So when we say women in language, we're talking about the speakers, we're talking about the panelists, we're talking about the people who we're spotlighting. But of course, for attending Women in Language, you do not have to be of the female gender. You can be any gender. And of course, you're welcome to join us. It's all about just, you know, providing a platform for voices that wouldn't normally be heard. And the way that we contact speakers is a little bit different than some of the other events. Like, we don't accept papers. Instead, we take recommendations for speakers. We brainstorm lists. We do all sorts of research and see who's doing interesting things in both academia and in like the more just language field in general, and then language learning. And so then we reach out and we contact people that we would like to have at the event. And so our approach is just a little bit different than the standard conference. And as far as who does what, we all have very different skills and we complement each other really nicely.
That's wonderful.
One of the things that's really great. And then plus, Tetsu, you know how awesome it is to run an event with your friends. So
exactly, yes.
It's just, it's great. And so Lindsay is our like social media guru and our designer. So all of the beautiful imagery you see behind Women in Languages, that is Lindsay. And Kirsten is what we like to call our speaker wrangler. So she's responsible for setting up the schedule and chasing down the speakers and making sure that they're ready and that they're going, and that, you know, everything's prepped on that side, which is a huge task. And so it's just amazing. And then me, I'm more of our technical person, I guess. So I do a lot of the more technical things like setting up the course, getting all of like the background stuff ready and going. And I do a lot of the writings as well. Lindsay also does some of our writing too. So we've kind of just like split the tasks out so that the workload's shared, and so that, you know, each of our talents kind of, I suppose, gets highlighted as a part of putting the event together. And so that, you know, the process of setting up the event and the process of putting everything together falls into what we enjoy doing and falls into what we're good at doing. So it's just really fantastic that not only do we get to do this with our friends, but our skills complement one another, and we're able to each kind of cover all of these different things in putting an event like this together.
I honestly couldn't believe it when the two said they would happily let me wrangle all the people. I was like, that's the one thing I can do. This is so good.
Well, I love hearing this. It is so valuable, this complementarity. I totally hear you, because sometimes, you know, you see Polyglot Conference, you see Polyglot Gathering, and then Women in Language. As an audience, you see that, you're like, wow, there must be like a team of 100, you know, 200 behind there. And then they're always surprised to see that, you know, the core is only like, you know, single digits. It's like 5 people.
It's
4
true,
people.
yeah.
And they, you know, sometimes with the complaints also, you know, I think it comes from that, where they think this should be run so professionally because of this and that, and you've got like a big team and $1 million budget, and but then when they realize that it's only a few members that's really in there and getting everything going, it's just, it becomes bigger than life, I think. So it's really truly valuable. It's something that we, you know, I really cherish with our team, and I see in every other event also. And that's also probably why these the event organizers, the event teams, we're all great friends, and we all support each other to make
You
this.
go through a lot year after year.
That's right. That's right. And I'd like to again recognize that we have folks commenting. We have Richard giving us a lot of good comments. Amazing stuff. Love seeing you all together. You know, and he mentions, as you said, women in language is not just for women. It's for everybody. It is run by women. It's represented by women. But it is for everybody. And he says he can't wait. We're going to see Richard in the audience asking you some tough questions. And he also mentions Benny and Beck are wonderful. So there you go. We've got great team.
But it's
Kristen, you get to unmute yourself.
Kristen, you're muted. You wanted to say something, it seems, but
Oh, just to confirm what Richard was saying, is Penny and Beck are great.
That's right. And we have Yikong Wen saying, hola, Yikong, ¿cómo estás? All right. Anything else you'd like to?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Nico.
Oh, yeah. No, I was saying with Kirsten, what you were saying before, you were saying, okay, you know, you're trying to reach out to new people. It's like, when I looked at the list of speakers, exactly the impression that I got, that I said, oh, well, there's a lot of names that are not the usual suspects that you see in a lot of events. There are completely new names and new faces that you might possibly then see in other places. So it's like you always have, I think what the way I understand what you're doing is that you're trying to find what will hook a new person, and bring them into. So in your case, it might be, oh, okay, it's an event for women, and you know, there's some kind of contact because you know, you're a woman, you're reaching out to another woman, but it might be other things, and you're bringing them into the fold, even though it's another door than the language only door, but it's like a new way to get into the community.
Right, because I think there's, like Shannon mentioned, about how, you know, many events, not just language events, but events in general, traditionally run on the idea of like, you want to speak, come and tell us that you want to speak. And that can be quite intimidating if you don't see anyone that sort of you can relate to, that looks like you, or that you can connect with in any kind of sort of deeper level, whether that's gender, whether that's race, whatever it is, then it can be difficult to want to put yourself forward for those kind of things, those kind of opportunities. And so that's something that we do really try and do and encourage. And, you know, Kirsten will kind of attest to this, that every time when we do reach out, we say, we want to hear from you at Women in Language, there'll always be someone every year who will say, I don't have anything to say. People don't want to hear from me.
I don't think I've got anything interesting to say. Do you think people want to hear about this kind of thing? And it's like, I think people want to hear from you, you know? But yeah, I always say women are really good at talking themselves out of stuff and out of opportunities.
Yes, but it is something that I've been thinking also, because you guys want this event to really have women have a voice in this community. Do you feel women is underrepresented in the community of polyglots or language lovers? And does it have to do with, I guess, personalities in general of women being, I guess, more timid or shy, or I don't know. What's the thing that really makes you feel that women specifically need a voice in this community?
I'll take this one until Lindsay and Shannon push me off my soapbox. No, it's not really about women being drastically underrepresented and we never see from them and we never hear from them and, oh, you know, they're being pushed out, old boys club, nothing like that. However, what we do see is that I think because language has got, every now and then it's got this performative element, and there's this kind of barrier, this perceived barrier of, oh, I don't speak the languages well enough. I don't perform well enough. People will call me out. And there's a kind of vulnerability to that. That kind of holds everybody back. But I think it's a little bit easier generally for men to make themselves vulnerable in that way, because they don't really, we don't perceive them as vulnerable. They don't perceive themselves as vulnerable. And I think as a woman, you're a little bit more like I'm waltzing into the space. So then what you get is you get like what Shannon was describing, you just get a higher proportion of men often putting themselves forward as experts, because the idea of claiming your role and your confidence as an expert is kind of scary to women. And we have, you don't need to look very far. You don't need to look very far into research and into statistics to know that, especially online, as a woman, it is harder to put your head above the parapet. And is that the saying? It's, to put yourself out there and to say, like, this is what I believe in. And you will get a little bit more flack for it. And the skin is a bit thinner. The responses are a little bit stronger. And what that all builds up to is this kind of feeling of, well, I don't know if this is safe, and I don't know if I do this well enough, and I'm not really credible. Maybe in the future, and then just nothing happens, because we just have that ever so slight barrier. So it's not about women being underrepresented in the sense of being invisible. It's about putting together something where we say, do you know what, expert panels. And the idea of the manel, that's one of my my things really, is if we're going to put an expert panel together, have you seen one that's all women? It's very rare, but hey, why not? Let's just try it. Let's just do it. Let's just completely turn the world around and put this up here just for 4 days. And like Nicola was reflecting on it, it is exactly that. It gives us this freshness. It gives us this way of bringing something together and bringing together people who have never spoken all in the same place before, that it creates something really, really magic. So it isn't really about being militant and about being, no, everything needs to change. It's about what we can add and the perspective that we can add. And if we can give some of our speakers, the opportunity to come and speak in a space where they're feeling like, okay, I guess that went okay, then LangFest, Polyglot Conference, Polyglot Gathering, every single other event is gonna have that person feeling like, yeah, well, I did women in language. This is I can do the next thing. And then I think we've achieved something.
Right.
So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, just to kind of add to that too, like we were talking about our process where we go and we contact speakers rather than have the speakers submit papers to us. There's what Kirsten was kind of saying and what Nicola was kind of saying is that, that's an intimidating process. So like for a lot of people, women, not women, what ends up happening is at these events, people who have experience doing that or who have a lot of confidence, they submit their papers. And so like you kind of end up seeing the same people at different events. There are some new faces, but just like the intimidating process of having to put yourself out there and then possibly being rejected can be scary for a lot of people. So with our approach, and as Kirsten was just saying, like we reach out and we contact people and say, hey, we want to hear from you. That actually helps some of these people who might not have had the confidence or might not have had the drive to put themselves out there. It gives them a platform where they can get that experience, where they can, that new name is there. And then as Kirsten was just saying, then they have the confidence to maybe say like, hey, I did this once. I had the experience doing it. People are interested in hearing what I have to say. And so then they can go out and submit. They'll have that confidence. They'll have that experience to want to go out and try and put themselves forward for some of these other events. So that's like, when we say we're championing these voices, that's kind of what we mean, is that we're helping them kind of kickstart into getting into this. And then also, just bringing new voices to the table, because there are people who wouldn't say like, oh, maybe I am in language, but I'm not specifically like language learning or polyglot. And so this event is not something that I would speak at. And then it's kind of opening the doors to them and saying, hey, like, just because you might not identify as a polyglot, or maybe because you do this thing that's not right down the middle of this pathway, it doesn't mean that what you have to say isn't relevant to the conversation.
I'm gonna echo right away what Richard Simcott is saying. Love what you're saying. It's as simple as that. I mean, every message that you're projecting right now is truly inspirational, and I totally feel what you're saying about this intimidating factor as a woman. And also I would say as a language learner in general. I think Kirsten mentioned earlier, we all have this feeling of not being enough. We sort of feel that we're not good enough to be a polyglot. I think all these events have this intimidating factor sort of built in, and it's but I love how every event, one of our biggest messages is for everybody. It's not for the hyper polyglots or even people who speak 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 language. It's for anybody who loves language, and that I think is a slogan for the Polyglot Conference and for you guys too. It's basically anybody who has an interest in language or even culture and multiculturalism. So definitely love the messaging here. We've got the chat box is going wild here. Let me just pick out a few. We've got Mihai telling us, you guys are truly inspirational. Well, there you go. What you guys do, making a difference. I have Abu saying, I love Lindy Boats. Wow, we all love Lindy Boats, as that's what Richard said. Who doesn't love Lindy Boats? And Lindy's in there. Wow. Well, thanks for tagging me. So we've got Lindy, we've got Yikang, we've got Abu, we've got folks going wild. I have actually a specific question from Yikang, who says, what do the ladies speak? Or which languages do you guys speak? I think we should extend that, just not just you guys, but overall with your panelists and your speakers. What are the languages that are covered here? And are there topics other than like learning languages or hacking languages that you guys cover at the event? Well, there you go.
So many. Okay, so we have something that I'm very excited about this year for the first time, which is what we're dubbing our dream teams. So we have our mindfulness dream team first of all, but then language specific, we have our Italian dream team. So we've got 3 amazing Italian teachers who all host a podcast, Comparelli Nostri, together. Barbara, Sylvia and Elfin, and they'll be talking at the event about listening, I think, and conversation, not just for Italian learners, but for learners of any language. So we've got that going on. They're speaking at the same time. We've also got what I've been dubbing in all the graphics, our Quechua dream team. So we'll be learning about Quechua and in particular, the experience of the Quechua collective based in New York. What is it like to be connected and engaging with a language so far from where it's indigenously and natively spoken. And what else have we got? We've got a panel that I'll be hosting on, I think, the first day on Thursday, I think, about heritage languages. So we'll have Esther, who has Basque heritage, learning Basque. We've got Desta, who has Ethiopian heritage, learning Amharic. And we've got Marissa with Polish heritage, learning Polish. So kind of discussing that experience with them. That's going to be really, really fun. What other languages have we got going on? Something on the language front, on the language learning front, that we're doing for the first time is we've got 2 speakeasy calls, which it's kind of a what's the word? A takeover, not a takeover, transplant, that will do, from Language League. Basically, it's an open language exchange. So you come on the call, we open different rooms for different languages, and it's your chance to just have a nice chat with other learners. So there's less kind of pressure. You're not with a teacher or anything. You're not going to get corrected. You're just chatting with other learners of the language that you want to practice. That's going to be so much fun. But aside from the language learning, we've got plenty on that as well. But we've also got things. Can you guys think of any off the top of your head? I'll pass on to Kirsten and Shannon.
We've got well, we run, the way that we organize our kind of talks is that very much the speakers bring their own talk, but when I organize the schedule, because I want to make sure because they're not all in the same place, so a lot of them have life interfering much more, which means the scheduling becomes much more important. You've got to make sure you put your speaker in a slot where they're actually going to be awake and with you, So I actually assign people their time slot before they even propose to talk. So people are in, which hopefully allows them to feel even more like, yeah, I can just propose anything because I'm already speaking, right? And unless it's completely insane, I'm gonna be like, yeah, let's do it. So having said the only guidance that they kind of get before that is that we say we've got a few tracks, we've got a few sort of general themes. Which one of these general themes would you like to speak on /to? And a new one for 2020 that we proposed is it was called Languages and All the Fields. So this is more about psychology and what's happening in your inside world when you're learning a language. You know, we've just spoken about the challenges a little bit of this feeling of never being good enough. And in that thread, we've got Shanti, who is going to do a talk about how to stop apologizing for your dire language skills, how to stop saying sorry, I'm not that good. So there's going to be a talk dedicated to that. We have got several people talking about how language changes you as a person. Lina Vasquez is going to talk about redefining the personal identity. Then we've got the mindfulness dream team of Maria Ortega Garcia and Jessica Tefengi-Ruel. And their talk is called Awakening to Yourself Through Languages. And you know how wonderful, I mean, I'm a big fan of Maria's. I was massively honored to present with her together last year at LangFest. So I can't wait to see Maria presenting at our, you know, together with somebody else. And it's really nice to team people up. And Lucrezia Odone, who is another Italian teacher, she's presenting a case history, so a case story of how Giampalahiri, if I hope I'm pronouncing that right, found her voice through learning Italian. And just on a speaker front, something that Shannon made me think about earlier when she was speaking about people putting themselves forward. I think each of us have done this for each other, have encouraged each other at times where we might have been saying, do you think I should put something? Do you think I could send something to LangFest? Do you think they'd look at me? Do you think I should maybe, like, I know Lindsay gave me your contact details, and that's when I first spoke at LangFest, I contacted you and I was like, hello, I want to speak at LangFest. But it takes a little bit of a boost, and it takes a bit of self-belief to put yourself forward. And we have done this for each other. We've boosted each other so much. So it's amazing to have our platform now to give to other people, to boost them.
It's fantastic.
Cool.
So we have some comments. I think we need to go through a few of these before it really overwhelms us. We've got Lindy Boats saying that sounds like an awesome track. So you guys, you know, it must be one of the tracks that you were talking about earlier. We have Chanel, who's a regular on all of our different pages and groups. Chanel is asking whether this year will be people with disabilities represented. And we have Indigenous, we have Sean. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, S-C-H-O-N. Welcome to the live. Who was wondering which endangered language or minority languages will you be highlighting? I think we mentioned Quechua earlier. I don't know if there's any else. And sadly, Richard had to leave. A little belated goodbye to Richard. I think he's already gone. There you go. I think I've covered some of the questions and comments. How anybody want to pick a few things to discuss right there?
Kirsten, I see you've popped a comment. Do you want to?
Yeah, on the question about disability, I don't think we've got anything explicitly about learning with a disability. We do have a thread that is a social justice kind of theme that wasn't something we necessarily went out looking for, but it's so cool. It emerged when different speakers started proposing their talk. And I'm just so excited to see this, that this is coming through. So we've got several social justice related, Black Lives Matter related speakers, and those are speakers who really, you know, who know what they're talking about in a way that Shannon, Lindsay, and I probably never will, you know, because it's the experiences that we haven't shared. And actually want to highlight Cheslene, if I'm pronouncing her correctly. Never know if it's a silent S. Cheslene Piapot, who I know proposed her talk or got in touch with us after last year you let me do a call for speakers at LangFest, and you let me on your stage to say to people, we want to hear from you. And if I remember correctly, she was there and she emailed us afterwards. We did have a deaf awareness talk. So if anybody missed last year's Women in Language, we had a really cool talk about the international sign languages. And Chanel herself spoke about being a visually impaired language learner last year at our lightning talks.
All right.
I think one aspect of doing an online event is, in any case, that it makes the event a lot more accessible to a lot of people compared to traditional events. So also with respect, not only to with respect to physical disability, that kind of thing, but also with money to travel. That's another aspect. And you were doing it online actually before it was cool. Now everybody's doing it online. This year because of the pandemic. And one of the questions that I had is that, now that the tools, the technical tools that you can use to do online events are changing very, very fast. Just over the past few months, new things have emerged that, didn't exist before. How has the technical way you set up your event changed compared to previous years?
But even that's a good question. Even before, I think, coronavirus, we used to use YouTube and we would like connect via YouTube. But then YouTube changed and was like, we're gonna have our beta launch now, and it doesn't quite do all the things that we'd want it to do. Like, you can't have the group calls, you can't have the screen share, all of the things that kind of made an online event, like Women in Language, really work. So we've had to look around for another one. So we found a really, really good piece of software that we're going to be using to host, and there'll be no difference really from a viewer perspective, from an attendee perspective. So that will all be the same. The interaction will all be the same. It's just our behind the scenes will be slightly different. But yeah, and that was actually before coronavirus, I think, when we knew we were going to have to look for something else, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think this was the bane of Lindsay's life last year. She was like, YouTube have done this and we can't do this anymore, and I don't know what on earth we're going to do. So we were very relieved when we did a lot of research, I think, into different streaming bits and bobs, and we found one that seems to do the job really well.
There's going to be even more options, I guess, from this year and after this year. I mean, because it's really booming, this
I thought for a while that we'd just have to go and do the whole thing on Twitch,
On Twitch, I hear so much about Twitch. I just totally imagine it to be a gamers thing.
Hear about as well, yeah.
Yeah. But new technology definitely is helping everybody, and with COVID, I think it accelerated the process a lot more, and not just the technology side, but also the audience side. I think, whether it's YouTube, any online platform is really getting a boost in audience-ship over the past few months. Oh, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I guess we'll see. Well,
how are you guys feeling about a lack of LangFest this year? Are you excited about the online event? Are you excited about the
well, definitely. Well, it's in a certain way, thanks to COVID, but I think this year we were already thinking about how we wanted to position it this year, given that we do this every year at the same place, right, in Montreal. And this year there was another big event, that Nicolas leads, the Esperanto Congress was taking place in Montreal right about the same time.
Now postponed to 2022.
Well, that's due to COVID. So we were kind of debating how we wanted to do it. Then Richard, gave me a call, saying, how about we do a collaboration, and that sort of was like the perfect answer for us this year. And we've been working together for the past 6 months, 8 months, actually more than that, almost 10 months since last Polyglot conference in Fukuoka. So it's so far so good. We're playing it by ear, and everything seems to be working out well. We're very excited for the Polyglot conference global in about 6 to 8 weeks. So hopefully everybody will be tuning into that also. But let's start with Women in Language. That's coming up in 3 weeks. You guys, the last 3 weeks for LangFest is always like the crunch time.
Oh yeah,
it's really when like half of what we have to do is like concentrated in those last 3 weeks. No matter how much advance that we build in a buffer a long, good timeline. We say, well, we're going to be right on milestone, everything. But it's always those 3 weeks where we're biting our nails in terms of ticket sales, and everything just goes up at the last minute. Ramp up all the last confirmations for the venue. And how is it for you guys? I don't know, if being online, does that make it any easier? I'm expecting a no.
I mean, I see. I've never ran an offline event, so I can't compare strictly
Good
speaking.
answer.
But I would say that it feels easier. Like thinking of all the extra things you'd have to think of offline, it's kind of like for me. I don't know how Shannon and Kirsten feel about that, but we have talked about maybe in the future taking women in language offline in some way or some form, and I'm glad we didn't plan that for this year. Got to be said. For the first time, that would be a nightmare. But I think that there is a certain beauty to being online, and it almost gives you the chance to kind of focus in more of like, okay, so this is what we have to do. Venues and that kind of stuff doesn't matter. We focus on the tech, we focus on the promo, we focus on, so yeah, I think there's, you probably have a lot more to think about when you are offline, I imagine.
Here's what I'll tell you about our courage in learning an offline event, and it's called ignorance.
Okay.
If we knew
ignorance is bliss.
If we knew how much work, I'm not sure we would have dived in the deep end from the first year. But I can say another thing about doing it offline right from the start, and that is growth. I think immediately, with the local people getting in, everybody loves, face to face more. It's got the advantages and disadvantages of obviously travel and whatnot is a disadvantage when you do it locally. But I think the way we did it, I think it's all or nothing, and thankfully it was all. I was lucky to have folks like Steve Kaufman and other big guys really support us. And Lindsay, you were there at the first event also. So thankfully we were able to go very quickly, but definitely it was a lot of work at the beginning. And you guys may be doing it the right way, grow your audience first online, and then have these folks come meet together and face to face. Anyways, we could go on forever, and I'm sure the folks who are watching would want us to go on. The comments continue to come in, but we're gonna have to wrap up somewhere along the way. So I don't know how about you guys each have a little message to the audience, something that this recording will be on Facebook and on YouTube, so people who are watching the recording can also have a sense of what's coming up for them, and sign up for the Women in Language that's coming up 17th to 20th September.
You can find out more at womeninlanguage.com.
There you go. Oh, it's a bit too small here, maybe, yeah? So who wants to go? Who wants to start?
I'll start, I guess. Really, as a message, just as Shannon says, womeninlanguage.com, we've got a whole range of speakers. And if you're looking at this and you're looking for the big keynote speaker that is the one person that's going to get you excited, throw that out the window. Instead, look for 5 people whose talk titles get you excited. They're going to be amazing. We are a great community at Women in Language. We do not care if you are a man, woman, or otherwise. We would love for you to join. And it's 4 days of fun. Come along.
Just to add to what Kirsten said, the community is really what makes Women in Language. We have chats going on during all of the talks. People are jumping in during the breaks, having conversations, meeting people. Lindsay's even met an exchange partner that she's gone on to meet in real life through Women in Language. We are all about building people up, creating connections, creating relationships, and the community is incredibly supportive at Women in Language, and they're very enthusiastic, and there's a lot of great dialogue going on. So like Kirsten said, if there's not a talk that gets you super excited, the community definitely will. So there's a little bit of something for everyone at the event.
That's a good note for me to follow on and end on, is that the event may start on the 17th of September, but the community starts now. So when you join, if you get your ticket today, you can request to join the Facebook group right away. And there's already conversations happening in there. So you can kind of chat and get to know people a little bit before the event kicks off as well. And then obviously during the event and after for a little bit as well, we keep it open. So you've got a chance to just make those final connections with people. So yeah. womeninlanguage.com. You can get your tickets today, right up until the event, September 17th. And we'll see you there.
That is fantastic. Well, thank you, ladies.
Great.
You know, to the audience, I think whichever event is your entry point into this community, the language community, is I think it's different from a lot of other communities in that this is really a place where there's that contrast between, wow, it's intimidating, but no, the people here are the most welcoming people on earth. So don't have your preconceived notions stop you from joining us. You know, the community is definitely growing online with different Facebook pages, different you know, YouTube channels. It's growing very rapidly, but I think we're still touching the tip of the iceberg. There are so many multilinguals in this world. So many, and many people who don't even consider themselves multilinguals or polyglots, but in fact they are. And so every language is important, even the minority ones. It's not the population that counts. And so we welcome everybody to come in. And the next entry point, a good one, is right here, Women in Language, that's starting on September 17th. It's online at Women in Languages, in Language, single, womeninlanguage.com. Okay, and sorry, I'm gonna end this call on a different promotion here. For LangFest, we are working with Polyglot Conference. That's coming up in October, but we can't wait until October. So what we're gonna do is starting next week, the promotion, you know, like material is going out as we speak. Starting next week, we will be working with UTalk, the app, the wonderful app for languages. UTalk will be working with us starting next week on this channel, on the Facebook channel, and also on the UTalk channel, and also on the LangFest YouTube channel. We will be doing a quiz. So every week, for starting next week, for 6 weeks up to the Polyglot Conference, we'll be doing pre-event quizzes to get you guys drummed up, you know, drumming up some buzz and getting you guys entertained, because we all can't wait for that event also. So there you go. That wraps up today's live session. Thank you very much for chiming in, everybody. Thank you for the comments and questions. And thank you to our special guests from Women in Language, Lindsay, Kirsten, and Shannon. Thank you for your time. And we'll be keeping in touch. And we'll see you at your event also.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Nicola.
Bye.